I'm so happy to see you today and to speak more about your background, your story, who you are, where you come from, and what has made you such an entrepreneur, so successful, and so, you're beautiful. I mean, you're a huge inspiration to other mothers that you can actually succeed in what you're doing. So tell me a bit more about who is Lizzie and who was Lizzie as a little girl?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me as well. It's really, really exciting to do this. Lizzie, as a little girl, was probably very lost, was probably very, very lost. Didn't have much direction, didn't have a great home life at all, and got taken away from my parents from quite a young age. So like about 12 years old. So I wasn't that young. It was a hard age because I guess I understood everything. So I guess that gave me a lot of trauma when I was younger, and I was very independent from that stage. I did go through my naughty stage, as you like to say. Like, I guess a lot of teenagers, go through that stage. But I think because I didn't have the support, I did go off the rails, But my foster mum, who I still see today, like, she's just incredible. They come out to Spain every year. Whenever I'm back in the UK, like, I'm always going back to see her, and they are my family, and she definitely shaped me as a woman. And she always says to me, Lizzie, if I hadn't have got you at 12, like, you would have been dead in a gutter. Like, she always says that to me, and I have to believe it. Like, I do have to believe it. There was lots of times where I'd run away before I, went into foster care. Well, actually, it was temporary foster care. So before I went with who I now call my foster mum, you go to like temporary homes, right? Where you just get like dumped in the middle of a house that you've never really been there before, or you don't know the people. And I just used to run to any given moment that I could. I remember the first time that I was going to be allowed out, for example. And they drove me to this club. I said, I'm going to my friend's house, 1 hour, and, we'll pick you back up here, very regimented. And I just bolted, and I just went. And I was forever, on the news, on like mainstream news and newspapers, like, have you spotted this girl? Because I just didn't want to be there, I guess. But yeah, and then I kind of, my foster mum did really save me. She taught me not to be so angry with the world, I think, because I was super, super angry from what had happened. So I was really lost as a little girl. And then I kind of, moved out when I was 15, 16. I already had 3 jobs, and going from to different jobs. And then I had Alfie at 20. So that was really my, like, life as a little girl. And I think that's probably what drove me a lot, and the independence, where that came from.
Oh my God. Wow.
A lot, right?
Yeah, what I do love about these conversations is that you never know where somebody comes from. And you might see these, beautiful people or sparkly personalities and people who really give back. And I mean, when you tell a story like that, it's just like people can really resonate with that. It's like not everyone just got everything on a silver platter or gifted. Yeah. Like, you had to run for it. You had to work on yourself and was forced from a very young age, such as myself, to kind of read the room, to figure it out, to, having to find yourself, trying to, live in the world and trying to make something of yourself.
Keep your head above water. It was like that. It was like the survival mode, the constant survival mode of, it's me or nothing. Like, I have to keep my head above water. And I constantly felt like that. And I think that's where all my passion came from in what I do now, is to never have people feel like that. When we have children and we put children into this world, I don't think they should just be left on their own and left to their own devices. I think as mothers, like, we bring them into the world, so they shouldn't be left in shit,
Yeah, I guess, becoming a mother really changes you and also makes you reflect on your own childhood and wakes up certain things that then you have to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, at least that was for me, that I'm like, what? I didn't even remember this. And suddenly a situation with your kids just spark something from your own childhood. And I guess with your story, you really prove and show that somebody was there for you to catch you and nurture you and help you, support you to, you know, believe in yourself. And that's what you are now giving back.
Yes.
With your children, like empowerment. You can break the cycle. And this is also what I think Momtivations really wants to support mothers who are struggling, that, you know, you can change the world, you can change others, you can give love, even if we maybe as children didn't get the love that we actually deserve. Tell me more about, you know, because you don't just have one child, you don't just have two children, you have three children, and you were quite young with your firstborn. So walk me through a little bit about how it was becoming a mother and then, you know, getting twins and having a partner and firstly being single and then not. So tell me a little bit about how that was for you.
Yeah, of course. So when I first had Alfie, you know, I was 20. I had met his dad super young. You know, we were very young. He was actually 6 years older than me, but we had met young, and I had Alfie at 20. I think something changed in me as soon as I had Alfie. I think it actually kind of saved me in a way, because the moment I had him, I just had this incredible desire to go and succeed and to make life great, you know. My support from his dad wasn't great at all. He was a big gambler, so you know, it was hard navigating that all the time, me bringing in money, earning money, and just seeing it vanish out of the bank account when you're going to pay rent, you know, and you've got a child. So that really didn't go on for that long. We actually lived in Brighton. We moved to Brighton in the UK, and I was with him for about a year and a half. Not even a year and a half until I said enough is enough. I can't do that. And the thought of being on my own at the age of 20 with like a new baby was horrifying. But I knew that I had to break this cycle. You know, it wasn't, it was violent at times, the relationship. Like it wasn't a great relationship, even though now, you know, we are civil and we have a friendly relationship now. It wasn't like that. So I'd say that having Alfie at 20 and having the twins, you know, 6 years later was totally different. As in me, I was in a totally different place, and I'd done a lot of work on myself between 20 and you know, 6 years later. But also I had the twins in Ibiza. So that was really crazy, because I just decided to move to Ibiza one day with Alfie, you know, packed up my things and, you know, met my now partner, and which is great because we had a baby in Ibiza. But again, it was, and it wasn't just one baby, right? We were told in the first few scans that it was one child. So it wasn't until the third scan where they turned to me and they said, "You've got two babies." And I honestly remember the moment like it was yesterday. We literally just stayed silent for like 2 minutes straight, just nothing, just looking at each other. And at the time, I didn't know that twins had actually run in my family. So it was like a total shock. So I think having Alfie at 20 made me grow. It made me really set my tone of where I was going to go and what I was going to do and how passionate I was to succeed, because there was no other option. I opened my first business, Hangover Heroes, one of my first businesses, but Hangover Heroes, which was a breakfast delivery company. And I had it in my 2-bed flat kitchen that I lived with Alfie. I got us a brand new 2-bedroom flat, you know, moved away from Brighton, moved away from him, his dad. And I said, right, you know, I'm on my own, like I've got to make this work. So I had Hangover Heroes that I used to run in this 2-bedroom flat in my kitchen. I got a council hygiene rating of 5. You know, it was like, it was all like professional, and I managed to get a great council hygiene rating. It was all legal. But it meant that I could still earn money, but also look after him. And, you know, I had delivery drivers in my hallway, like 5 delivery drivers waiting for orders to go out. And Alfie would just be playing in the lounge, you know, round, and he'd have obviously people watching him as well. But it was manageable because I had to just do that. And yeah, it really grew quite big. So it became like, I took over the whole of like Poole and Bournemouth, and it went really great. But yeah, that was having Alfie at 20, and then, you know, the twins a lot later.
So having your first son so young, right? You probably also had been moving around a lot in your younger years. But I mean, from Brighton to Ibiza, and currently we're in Mallorca.
Yes.
So, which, you know, is amazing, but where did that come from with you? Like from not just being a solo mom, but also moving countries, opening your own business. Like, I suppose you also worked for others at a younger stage and got, you know, more experience. But where did you get that from? That, you know, you wanted to be independent, self-employed, entrepreneur, but also with a son on your arm. Like, how was that?
It was tough. It was really tough. And I always had back then a victim mentality as well. And I couldn't help it. I had this victim mentality of, why is this me? Why couldn't I have been born into, like you said, you know, silver spoons? And why couldn't I have done that? I didn't understand it then. I understand it now, that needed to happen to shape me into the person that I am today. And I needed to go through every single bit of it. But back then, I just had such a, you know, victim mentality, and it was super hard at times, you know. I think the desire was to go far and to go big and to be successful was because there was just no other option. And I wasn't going to settle for anything else. You know, I'd worked for a lot of people, you know, chicken shops, Chicken Shack in the middle of Boscombe. Not a very nice place if anybody's watching and knows where Boscombe is. But, you know, a lot of different call centres, insurance, you know, worked for a lot of different people because I needed to pay the rent and I needed to pay the bills. But I very quickly realised, you know, I cannot work for other people. I think if, you know my personality and you know the way I am, like, I find it very hard to be told what to do. And I think that does come from, you know, someone says left, I'll go right. That's just my personality. I've learned to deal with that a lot better as I've got older. But I think back then it was like, no, I can't work for people. I'm not building someone else's dream. How no am I building someone else's dream? So I think that just came from so young. And then when I realised that I could actually start a business in anything that I wanted to do, because I've always had this delusion. And I feel like that's where a lot of my success has come from, is this pure delusion. And people used to look at me when I used to say my ideas for a new business venture or say what I'm doing next, and they would look at me like I was mental. And I just would be like, yeah, right. Because I knew in my head that if I believed it and I saw it, I could do it. And that was so powerful to me to know that. And yeah, I guess I just didn't stop, and I just, you know, carried on. How I moved to Ibiza and then Mallorca. So I had hangover heroes, which I explained a little bit about earlier. From me working in my 2-bed flat kitchen, I then built up to owning my own restaurant and opening my own restaurant, which was just wild. I was 22 when I opened the restaurant, so I didn't have a clue on how to run a restaurant or how to do it. Again, I was just like, I'm going to make this work. It was incredible. The time that I had at the restaurant was incredible. It taught me so much. I learned so much through that process. Would I own a restaurant again? Probably not. But was it my baby back then? Yes, it really, really was. And I loved it. But then COVID hit the restaurant and I had to close down and turn into like a delivery business. And we smashed the deliveries, you know, we just adapted to whatever we could. But I very quickly realised I didn't want to work in a restaurant on my feet for God knows however many hours per day. You understand the hospitality industry, and I think if anyone watching this is in the hospitality industry right now, they will understand it's hard graft, really hard graft. And if I wasn't in the restaurant, It was very much like I had to be in the restaurant, at all times. The chefs just had no respect for me. Chefs wouldn't turn up and I'd be like, right, I'm front of house and kitchen today. Like, I would just adapt to whatever got put in front of me. But I was getting tired of the restaurant. Time away from Alfie all the time as well. I didn't want that. It kind of given me the opposite of what I'd always been building, which was that freedom. Gave me the total opposite. And the money wasn't that great either. So I was like, well, why am I doing this? COVID was like bringing down the restaurant anyway, I'd say. And I'd kind of lost my passion and my love for it, I'll be totally honest. And I woke up one day and it was literally like this. This is how my brain works, and people will call me crazy, but I'm just very spontaneous. And when I have this idea of something, I'll go and do it. But it was a documentary that my friend had done on Ibiza, and it was on Amazon. And I was watching this documentary and I thought, wow, a beautiful island. And I'd not really experienced many places in the world yet. I'd flown myself to like Qatar at the age of 18 and just random places, but never really seen much of the world. I just looked at this island, I looked at the blue waters, and I looked at how gorgeous it was, and I said, right, I want to move there. And that was it. My house was packed up a week later. I was off. I was gone. Didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I'd work it out.
Wow. I mean, I just wonder, and I think one of the most beautiful things is like, how did you find that courage to do all of that? And I mean, I think victim mode is definitely something that resonates with a lot of people and mothers, because it is hard. And no, nobody's coming to save you, and you do have to figure it out, and you do have to, no sleep, and you have to do everything anyway, even if you're sick or whatever it is. Do you remember any specific moments in time in your life when your son was little that really made, like, you hit rock bottom and made you really say, it's enough, I had it, I can't be doing this? Like, was there a specific moment, something that triggered, that made you say, there's no turning back from here?
I'd say it was when I left. I'd say what triggered me even more, although I have to say that desire and that hunger came from way earlier, like even before I had Alfie. I was on that road, but then when I had Alfie, it was just, completely overpowering. I can't let this happen again. Can't let this happen to this child. It's already happened to me, so I can't let that happen. But I think I was at very rock bottom moments, dealing with a lot of trauma. And I didn't realise how much trauma I was actually dealing with back then to how much I've healed and how much I've gone through now to be able to fix that side. There had been many, many, many times when, and I've never actually said this live or out there, but there was many times when I just didn't want to be there. I just didn't want to be on this planet, like in the world.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It really resonates with me. Like, there's a lot of shame, not just for mothers, but I mean, of course, this is Momtivations, but for me, also the same. Like, you just want to disappear because you feel, and it's not that you like really are ready to do it, but just the thought of being so depressed and so sad, and I just want to magic trick, disappear, or lay in my bed, nobody asking for me, but you can't because,
That's so true. It's so true. It's like knowing that I could never actually do it because I have this little human. And that was every single time the thing that stopped me. Every single time. It was like, but you're right. It was I just want to be swallowed up. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I can't mentally deal with this anymore. I think we forget as mothers that we actually sometimes, especially having children young, we're still growing up. We're still doing our growing and our learning and our trauma healing. And that's hard when you have someone else to look after.
And how did you, in that moment, of depth, how did you cope with that? I mean, because a lot of people would, or mothers would turn into addictions or, toxic environment. And how did you, like a superwoman, find that strength to just, no, that's not the direction we're going. Okay. Because again, like you're saying, it's not about self-pity, and maybe you were in a moment in time where you were victim mode, but I feel that that is also okay to say, man, I'm sad and I'm not okay and this is not okay and it's not fair. But you picked yourself up from there.
Yeah.
How did you, navigate in a place where you felt so low, but you still managed to, get out of there emotionally, physically? How did you do that?
So I did turn to alcohol, like the summer of lockdown. Remember, it was a scorching summer. If anyone is in the UK, they'll know that it was like the hottest summer in lockdown. I had the restaurant, and my house was down the road from my restaurant. So every single day I would go up to the restaurant and look at the bar and go, what am I going to drink today? And it would be every single day. And I was just masking it. I was just masking all this trauma and all these pressures that I had and these responsibilities, having a restaurant and having children and all these responsibilities, the suppliers, coming out my ears every 2 minutes, staff, vandalism in the restaurant. It would be something, all the time as an entrepreneur, it always is. But I definitely went through a bad patch of my time. That I specifically remember that summer, that lockdown summer. And I just drink so much every day, and I was just lost. I think moving to Ibiza, it really, really turned. I don't have a problem with alcohol, but my parents did. And that was always something, right in the back of my mind, that what are you doing, Lizzie? Why are you turning to drink every day? Because that's the far from, where you want to go. I guess I had to go through that to understand that that's not right. It's not correct. Your life isn't moving in any direction when, you're just masking the issues. That was what made me look and move to Ibiza and tackle my traumas head on, because I had to. There was no other option. I wasn't drinking. I couldn't just mask it with drink every time. So it's like, oh shit, now the real work begins,
It's amazing. Listen, of all places in the world, you turn to Ibiza, which is probably known for the most addictive place when it comes to alcohol and drugs. But there is also something magical with that island. And there is a lot of spirituality and, seeking inwards and, yoga and breath work and retreats. And I mean, you managed to find something really beautiful there and turn your life around and not go deeper into that hole, because of all places, Ibiza can also be challenging when it comes to, partying and addiction.
It's so funny you say that, actually, because everyone genuinely thought, like, Lizzie's living in Ibiza, but that's just the party island. But I love the way you said that Ibiza has got that totally different aspect to it as well, which is the spiritual side, which is the beauty of the island, which is the beaches, how incredible the people are there. Funny enough, I never went clubbing, like when I was in Ibiza, which people could just never understand. They're like, I'd be in a Ushuaia every weekend. No, I wasn't there for that, and I think people would automatically think, oh, she's on a party island. But it wasn't like that for me. It was my safe haven. And also, the restaurant was going down. I could feel it. It was bringing in a bit of money, ticking over me each month. But the more I wasn't there, the more it was going down. And I had to do something. And then that was when Book It Balearics was born.
Just to finish off a little bit more about your childhood, your story. You were in foster care. You have an extra mom who was there for you to nurture you, to teach you good values and so on. How did she affect your life also as a mentor? And have you had other mentors along the way that have brought you to where you're now? Because you're an entrepreneur, self-made, you teach others how to trade, you have properties. So tell me a little bit more about who inspired you and who was there for you as a mentor.
I would say, yes, my foster mum, 100%, she shaped me. She taught me patience. You know, I said earlier, she taught me really how to not be so angry with the world and how to be a woman, you know, how to become a woman. But obviously I was still very independent and still very, no, I won't do it like that. I'll do it my way, you know? And even though she shaped me as a person, she saved me in a way. My granddad was always my inspiration in the work ethic way, because my granddad was always a bit of a Del boy. He always had his own businesses. You know, he had shops and secondhand furniture stores, and he made a very good living out of doing that. He always pushed me. He always pushed me and believed in me, and he always believed in me. He always said I was his favorite grandchild. If I'm honest. But that's really mean. Sorry, cousins, if you're listening to this. He doesn't mean it really. But yeah, I'd say that, you know, he really shaped me growing up because he was the one that believed in me, and I still have an amazing relationship with my grandma and my granddad. But a recent mentor that's come into my life in the last 4 years is a guy called Daniel Dukes. You may know him yourself. And he's a great friend of mine. And I don't think he really even meant to be a mentor for me. You know, it wasn't ever set up that he was my mentor. He's more of a friend. But I don't think he realizes probably how much he's shaped me and taught me and allowed me to grow whilst we've been working together as well. So, yeah, there's a few names there.
I mean, it's so important to have mentors. Usually it's something that it's spoken about as an entrepreneur, you know. It's not something that we talk about as a mother. So, I mean, you managed to really navigate in all of that: motherhood, self-employment, building businesses, building a career for yourself. You're also, you know, big on social media. You're gorgeous. You're intelligent. You know, you have so much love to give. You know, I mean, we speak about having a village. And I think in this modern motherhood, unfortunately, something that is disappearing. And with your story and your childhood, you really didn't have that village. You didn't have that support network, as well as I didn't have that. So, I mean, I think it's the future to have mentors, to have people, no matter blood related or not. And I think what I can feel with you is you have so much passion, you have so much love to give, you have so much energy. How much does it affect you, like on a day-to-day, the work that you are doing, giving back, you know, teaching others skills and tools and how to, you know, set your finances right and having a life with purpose?
It's incredibly powerful. It feels incredible. People say to me, Lizzie, why do you still do this? Why do you still do that side of things? It will always be because that is the hub of everything I do. That's the passion. That's my passion project. You know, that's what it's all for, really. Because I fully believe, like, if I can do something like this, that's any woman, any person can do this. They can really do whatever they want. But watching someone, there is something so beautiful about watching a single mom, a mum, you know, someone struggling, maybe on maternity leave, whatever situation, watching them flourish in something like this. And God, not overnight, you know, it does take time and it does. But the people who stick this out and the people that do not quit, not only on themselves, but on the skill itself as well. It's the most highest quitted, you know, skill, because people give up at the first hurdle, right? Which is just what a lot of people do. And I think unless you have that sickening desire to literally just, you know, power through, and it's beautiful watching that. But it's also beautiful watching people totally change their lives, not just financially, let's remember, because yes, financially is great. And God, it's lovely to watch people go from struggling to, okay, they don't even have to think about it when they're going around the food shop. You know, we've all been there where we're counting the food shop out when we're going around the trolley. I remember those days like it was yesterday. Like, I've got £30. How far is this going to go? and adding it up as I'm going in the trolley and being so embarrassed because my maths isn't great that I've got to the end of the till, you know? But watching that is gorgeous, but also the freedom aspect. And when people actually say, and it clicks to them and they're like, God, I've done this, you know, and that's just, it's beautiful. So yeah, a lot of my passion is definitely put into doing that for other people. It's just gorgeous working with people like that. But at the same time, I'm going to say it, not to swing a negative, but it's sad watching the people give up way too early and not even really trying. When they've told me, you know, they want to change their life, they want to change their finances, and there might still be a limiting belief there or something, but it's really sad watching people give up so quick. And I'll never understand that, but I do have to understand that we're not all the same.
Many mothers feel guilt when they try to, you know, take more care of themselves or pursue a career or, you know, trying to make something for themselves. How did you, you know, manage all of that? And also having like 3 children, not just one child, 2, 3. And how has it impacted you also having a partner by your side when it comes to, you know, the support, helping others, teaching others, trading skills, monetary growth, and so on?
It's been definitely a breath of fresh air having support because it's just totally different, you know, this time round. I think Alfie, when I had Alfie, he came everywhere with me. He used to come into meetings with me and he'd literally come everywhere with me because there was just no other choice. And I had to have him doing that. And there was some times where it wasn't suitable for him to come, but I had to do it anyway. If you wanted me at that meeting, I would have to bring him. But I think the support now is so much better because I feel safer knowing, you know, it's less hectic and stressful. I mean, we did have a live-in nanny for a while. I personally didn't like that. I didn't like somebody being in my house, and I felt like it took away time from the children as well, which I didn't actually need. So tried it, didn't get on with it, but that's fine. You know, there are always options, and I know that other people have incredible au pairs and incredible nannies for their family, but personally for me, it just didn't work. I still get mum guilt. Even now, even if I'm away for 3 days, you know, I really try and not go away for more than 4 days at one given time because one, I struggle and I get really homesick from them, but also I know they won't like it. So I do get, even though they're with their dad, you know, and that's fine, I still get that level of guilt. But there's a big but here. The guilt comes with it. You know, you have to go through, I guess, that little element of guilt. You know they're fine. You know they're cared. You know they're looked after. But at the same time, you wouldn't be able to give them this life. Well, you know, for me, I wouldn't be able to give my children this life if I didn't also go and do the hard work. I also think it's incredibly beautiful them watching a work ethic and watching them know that things take hard work and teaching that and instilling that into them from a really young age, that this doesn't come easy. And I do hope they see that. You know, I really, really do. So yeah, definitely guilt can be there. I still get it to this day. I think a lot of mums will.
You being able to balance that is amazing because I think that, you know, most mothers, all mothers, me included, struggle with finding that balance. And I think it's a life learned lesson. Yeah. And time doesn't come back. And you want to be there with your children and enjoy the little moments. Being present is something that, you know, myself, I'm working on a lot, that when I'm there, I'm there. And remove devices like phones and such. Try to really be like, I'm looking in your eye and I'm there for you, like whatever you need, or having fun and having laughs, because I don't want my child to be disconnected. I want him to have fun, to be present, and not just to be like a phone zombie or whatever it is. You working in the digital world, how do you balance that? Because luckily most of it or some of it you can do from home, so you have the choice And I think which is an amazing luxury, but also being able to navigate and balance it to not be to stress out yourself, you know, because it sounds amazing. Like, I work from home, but I mean, it's not a walk in the park, and it's not, you know, and your children also, I suppose, will have to understand that right now is a meeting, but you know, you're here, which is great, but I need to focus on this. Like, how do you also show them the important and the great values of life and what's important?
Of course, it is a hard balance. I think when anyone says, I work from home or I work for myself or, you know, it's balance, and it's about navigating, you know, home life, separate home life, to where my office is in the house, to where, you know, that's then done and we don't take anything to the lounge or to bed or, you know, wherever it is. So I really do get that. It's definitely hard to navigate because it sounds so glamorous, right? Sounds so glamorous, but it does take time to navigate. And I'm actually quite strict on screen time with, I think there's healthy screen time when they're learning Forex, when they're doing Forex education courses. No, I do have a quite strict regime, and my children do have a very good routine because, for example, Alfie, you know, he's 10, he needs to keep his room tidy. I'm not doing that anymore. He needs to do that himself and realize that he has to make his bed every morning. It instills good things in them. He knows that he can't switch his telly on for his 1 hour per day before he's done his academic. That has to be done. That's a non-negotiable. So, you know, there's things that I've had to put in place. Like, routine is everything for me. When the children are off, like for 2 weeks, sometimes I'm like, I love it, but God, I need that routine back. And so do they. But my team will know, my friends will know. If you try and get hold of me at the weekend, you won't. My phone is off at the weekends. It gets put down and I do not even look at it. I'm gardening, I'm with the children, I'm cooking, I'm enjoying the house, I'm enjoying nature, I'm doing the things that make me really, really happy and being present with the children. So they know at the weekend that's my time. I'm there. But also, you know, I try not to work after like 3 o'clock in the afternoon because that's when they're back. And then again, I can dedicate to cooking dinner and to, you know, playing. There will be some times where I have, you know, calls in the evening. Again, I can, you know, very easily say to them, Mummy has a work call now. I mean, if they pop in on the work call, it happens. It is what it is. We're mums, right? I think it also brings, like, there's been many times when I'm on business calls and Elsie or Arlo or someone will pop in. And I think it's reality. So it just is what it is. But yeah, I do like my weekends are like, I'm not on my phone at all.
So what you just said about that, you know, about putting your phone away in the weekends and not working from after a certain time and so on, I think a lot of mothers out there are thinking, how do you do that? Like, practically, what did it take to get there and how could they get there? Like, I think it's everybody's dream to be able to just put the phone in a drawer and just actually spend quality time with your family, with your kids, with yourself as well. So what are the practical steps to get there?
For me, learn a skill that no one can take away from you. So learn a skill that you can monetize off, that you can do in your own time for no more than 1 to 2 hours per day. You know, obviously it doesn't come like that straight away. Yes, it does take time to get to that stage and, you know, a lot of education in order for me, you know, trading and being in the financial space. It took time to get where I am, but I knew that once I'd cracked it, no one can take it away from me. It's always there, and I always have that chance. But also residual pay. Residual pay for me is one of the most savviest pays because you're paid when you're not working. And that for me is another great, you know, aspect of business is having the residual pay. I used to hate putting my phone down to the point where it gave me anxiety. If I had like 2 days off my phone, you know, a lot of people can relate to this, where I'd be like, I know I'm going to have like 100, 200 messages deep by Monday, and it's going to overwhelm me. It doesn't overwhelm me anymore because that is my switch off time. And if I don't have that, I know I will go crazy, be burnt out, not be able to perform, not be able to be a mum as better, as best as I can. So I've learned in my entrepreneur journey, motherhood journey, whatever you want to call it, that time away from a screen, away from my phone is so important. Also, just having the respect and say, I stopped working at 3:00. I'm not working after that. And also, like my team, they know they can't get hold of me at the weekend. It's just standard. You won't get hold of Lizzie at the weekend. It becomes the norm. That's how it should be, setting your own boundaries and your own levels. But yeah, it does take time to work up to that stage. And there's always that thing of, but I could be doing more. In that time, 3 till 7, the kids could be watching telly and I could be getting on with so much more and make so much more money. It's not about that for me. It's about having the time, because there was never a time where I could switch my phone off or not work. So I think having that luxury now, I just appreciate it so much.
The big question is, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
Right? Because I think when you've had a rough childhood, when you've had to struggle by yourself, you are just on survival mode and you don't even know that you are that. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, that drive comes from that depth, undescribable depth. And then you have to figure out then in your adult life that the reasons you're actually doing it for are healthy. And you have to somewhere in between figure that out, because the easy road is just to continue in that toxic cycle and to stress yourself out and to sleep with your phone under your pillow, that I guess a lot of people do. And I must admit, I've been a bit, phone addicted myself.
That used to be me.
Yeah.
What you described.
Yeah, and I think to get rid of that addiction, it was hard. And you don't realize it. These are the things that I love to talk about, because it's things that you think is a me problem, but it's a us problem.
Yeah.
Because we are not alone in it, but we don't speak about it because it's just shameful, or, it's embarrassing, and what will the others think? And then posting beautiful pictures and everything looks great on the outside. And we are in this fast-paced digital world where it's just like swipe, swipe, swipe. Do I like this? Do I not like? Yeah. It's really hard to tell real from fake. And you finding that strength to put boundaries, like, where did you get those from? Like, how did you come to that realization? Because it's not easy to get there. And I guess for a lot of people out there, they're like, tell us the tools. Like, how do we get there?
I think it's seeing the other side, isn't it? It's seeing the other side of the burnout, the struggle, the tiredness, the being ratty at your kids, not feeling like you're spending any quality time with them, which is horrible. It feels horrible. I think you have to go through that side to almost want and respect the other side of it. And for me also, I built business and became an entrepreneur to have more freedom, not to be glued to my phone constantly, because I fell victim of that too. And I stopped one day and I just thought, what am I doing? I've built this so that I can have more freedom. Why am I doing the total opposite? It's like they say, isn't it? You become an entrepreneur and you work 24/7. Does not need to be like that. If you have set things up properly, investments on auto, residual pay, you have things in order to do that, but also just being better with time. Sometimes it can genuinely just be better with your time. You might find in the morning, some people might find that actually they could have got 4 hours of work done in the morning, but instead they're a consumer scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, going on a death scroll, or not actually doing anything, and it's having that pockets of time where you are intentional with that time. Because if you want to clock off at 3:00 and you have to clock off at 3:00, you've got a workload to do in the morning. So it's knowing that, because let's face it, when we give an hour of our time to something and we say we're giving the hour, it's never a full hour. We're always checking our phone here or something over there or something here. I think if we genuinely actually just gave that devoted hour with no phone, and I think a lot of people would get more done. I really, really do. I think a lot of people would get so much more done. But also, do you know what helped me, as in putting my phone down, and I hope it helps other people, was just knowing that it's not going anywhere. That workload will still be there on Monday. Those people are still waiting for responses, so it's not going anywhere. That's what really helped me rest my mind.
You've seen these videos online where they ask women, like, if you imagine yourself being on your deathbed or your older self, what would have told your younger self, or what things would you have done in your life? What message would you like to send to your children? Like, what legacy do you wish to leave behind? What do you want them to see or understand from your journey?
I guess to leave a legacy for my children, it would be a monetary legacy, because that is super important to give them a head start, but obviously not everything. So there's lots of things I've done to set them up, legacy for their future, but just really good morals. I think having good morals and being kind, and I think manners are huge. I think growing up and having manners and being able to just, basic table manners, being able to sit at a table and use a knife and fork properly, the basic things that actually are forgotten nowadays, which I think that is instilled in me from my grandma and my granddad, sitting up at the table, shoulders back, not that regimented, but I think having basic manners and discipline like that. I also think legacy-wise, I'd love my children to do anything that they want to go and do, anything that they're passionate about. I'm not one of those mums where I'll go and tell them they have to become a doctor or, have to do this, because I feel like their legacy will be born, and their legacy will grow with them as well in what they want to do. So for me, as long as they are polite, they have good morals, and they're kind people, because I think we need more kindness in this world sometimes. I think it's basic things like that shape a child massively. But yeah, work ethic, good work ethic, kindness, polite manners. That's the legacy that should be left behind, not just monetary.
So if we talk about money and independence and, monetary growth, I think a lot of women or mothers are pretty skeptical or scared or feel it's a scam. You have now grown a huge business teaching others how to trade, how to invest, how to, handle your money, how to make it grow. Tell us more about your team and how you've gotten there and how you give people the necessary tools.
This is exciting. This is very exciting. I think when I first started to learn how to trade, you're very right. It's very much like this is a scam. And funny enough, before I actually learned how to trade, I got scammed on Instagram on a Forex scam. So I can understand why people have this bad, perception of it. I was only scammed £350, but that was a lot of money for me back then. Like that crushed me back then, losing that sort of money. So yeah, I do understand it has that bad perception, but there's the other side of it where, foreign exchange has been around since the 1940s. It's a profession, what are they doing on Wall Street, like that we watch every day, as I'm talking, your banks are trading your money anyway. Your banks are trading your money. And it's a well-known fact that, if we all went to the bank today and all wanted to get our money out at the same time, they could not give it to us. So when I learned the skill and it got me out of my survival mode, and yes, it did not happen overnight. I studied for a very long time to be able to really do this, and it didn't come overnight. It did come with learning and applying myself, and using my own initiative sometimes and having to do that. But when I learned it, and when I started to make the sort of money that I was making, I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't gatekeep it from people. Like, this had changed my life. Why would I not help others then change theirs? So it's incredible, running a large community, because, I've shaped some incredible traders. Watching people who are, later on in the journey, 2-3 years down the line, and the level of, skill that they have is truly magical to watch. But also I believe that a lot of people are spending their money each month on utter crap anyway. The Academy costs £4.50 a day, less than a coffee a day. But people won't think twice about going to spend on a coffee or buy something, crap at the shop, or so many different things. But people will be quite happy stuck in that and going round this circle where nothing's changing if nothing's changing, but they expect something to change. And I like to break people out of that cycle and show them, what really is possible. Even basic stocks and shares knowledge, and having, basic stocks and shares knowledge truly can change your child's whole future with a simple, let's say, £100, €100 a month. This is what many people don't understand, is that, things don't have to be high risk, in what we do. It's, for example, a simple stocks and shares account. Let's just give an example, right? And let's say that when your child was born, that you put £100 a month into a stocks and shares ISA. And let's say, for an example purpose, that it's grown 8% per year, which is more than doable. I will show you what my stocks and shares has done in the last 6 months, and then you'll know how doable 8% actually is. But when they were 18, if you simply put in £100 a month, they would be on over €200,000 when they were 18, just from £100 a month and just from an 8% growth per month. Now, I know I didn't have 200k when I was 18, and I know what that could have maybe done. Maybe it wouldn't have been good if I had it at 18, and then we can manage that accordingly. But I just think that having that set up, and the craziest thing is when they were 18, if you stopped putting in that £100 a month and they didn't add a penny more and you didn't add a penny more, and it just kept compounding, they could retire themselves at potentially 40 years of age. So I think most parents don't think twice about spending, especially in the UK, a McDonald's every day, crap sweets, crap plastic toys. Over here, the Chinese shops, how many parents go into the Chinese shops and spend a tenner on their kid and not even thinking about it? But if only people knew that from a simple £100 a month and how much they could grow their own money, it's quite impressive, really.
I think it's crazy to think about the educations and the schools that you can pay large sums of money that you afterwards you are in debt for years and years and years, and maybe the knowledge that you learned in that education wasn't as useful in real life. So for anyone out there, especially mothers or single mothers or a mother struggling, what tools would you apply, or how would you guide or help, or make people really see that those first steps aren't as hard as they think they are?
I think it's very important to give the everyday person a step into the world of investing, because somebody like me who had no clue, and most people who I teach have no clue about this when they first come in, it's about having a structure and a clear plan. And because I've been doing this a long time, it's about having a step-by-step process that's not too overwhelming for people, so that they have somewhere to go. But also the setup that we have is that you are learning off of educators that have been in this field for 15 years plus. So we can leverage off of those people. It's I learned off of people that had already done what I needed to do and already had the skills that I needed to be able to learn. So that's exactly what we do when, a new starter is coming in. They get a clear structure. Please start here. Basic Forex courses, teaching them all the terminology, teaching them the complete basics. And a lot of people say to me, yeah, but I'm really not good at maths. And I say, well, nor was I. People have this misconception that they must be good at this thing or they must be good at that. I have people watching their first videos and saying, but I didn't understand that. I'm just not going to get this. And I say, I didn't expect you to understand it. It would be weird if you did understand that. I don't expect you to know any of that, because it should sound like a foreign language at first, because we're learning something new. Most of it is about reassuring people and holding their hand through it to make them feel like it's possible. But, you know, a really great statistic that I love in the world is self-employed, you know, the cash flow quadrant, like the normal cash flow quadrant of the world and where our money comes from. You have a left side and a right side, and the left side it's made up of employed and self-employed, and the right side is made up of business owners and investors. Now, 95% of the world population makes up for the left side, employed and self-employed. But they only produce 5% of the world's wealth. This blew my mind off. But the other side, the business owners and the investors, there's only 5% of them, but they bring in 95% of the world's wealth. And that to me says absolutely everything, that no one made $1 million working for someone else. And, you know, no one really had a step in that in working for someone else. So it's about knowing where the money is in the world, how money makes this world go round. You know, and I think banks are the biggest scams in the world, you know, absolutely the biggest scams in the world. But it is just learning about how to really make your money make more money. And, you know, people think you need a lot of money to invest. It's just not the case. You can start small and steady and compound your money. You know, if you can turn £1 into £2, you can turn £10 into 20 and 2 into 4. You know, it's the way the world goes.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting that in this fast-paced digital world, as a mother, I feel you really need to wake up or get woken. Yes. I mean, or you better learn the skills because it's moving fast, or you're going to be off that rail and you're going to struggle and you're going to continue. And I mean, with this new way of learning, where it's just yourself, you have to just invest your time in yourself. How does someone, a mother, let's say mother, a single mother, struggling, how can she get, make those first steps to actually believing in themselves? Because I think a lot of the pattern is you're already giving up before you even start. So how do you move past that?
I think it's really, you need to instill trust. Trust is a very big aspect to it, because somebody needs to trust you. But also getting somebody results straight away is incredible, because, we have copy and paste systems, so that obviously when you're learning, you're not going to be able to place your own trades. So that, again, you're leveraging off of people, so that, having a mum come in and make £20 in their first day, and they're like, wow, this works, and we make them £20 each day for the first week. And they're like, damn, this just paid my £180 academy education cost, and I know people that have spent tens of thousands of pounds on Forex courses, seriously, and still not really got, any further. So I guess it's instilling belief in people, but showing them that they can, And when they place their first trade and they make their first £20, it's an incredible, beautiful thing to see, because they've done it and they've succeeded in that one step. Then they might go on to their courses and they finish the end of their Forex course and things are starting to click. Things that didn't click 4 weeks ago are now starting to click. That's instant belief in someone. And also a huge mindset shift. Like inside the academy, I'd say the biggest thing in financial education and the biggest thing in trading anywhere is your mind, is mindset. It's 20% technical, it's 20% analysis. The rest is genuinely your mindset. I think enough people as well aren't plugging into their mindset and personal development. So again, when somebody comes inside the academy, it might not even be the monetary value that got them excited. It might be because they got on one call with a mentor or got on one call with an educator and they heard something in that, or a mindset educator, and they heard something in that totally changed their wire in their brain, because it hit them, because they've been struggling for too long, because they haven't changed anything for too long. And it's raw and it's honest. And sometimes it's not even seeing somebody's monetary value, it's seeing how their mind changed and how they now look at the world or how they look at their finances. And I remember when I first started investing in stocks and shares, and I'd always go out for dinner, and then I'd go and grab ice cream after, like from always the ice cream stores, you know, in Mallorca, we've got loads here. And I started to think about little things, and I think, do I really need that ice cream? Do I need to spend 20 euros on an ice cream that I would normally do every time? Do you know what's the difference? Is I would still enjoy dinner, but I would say to myself after, I don't actually need that ice cream. And in my investment mind, that's 20 quid extra in my investment pot. And when you start to think like that, it's not being tight. It's not about being tight. It's about still enjoying, you know, the fruits of your labor, but at the same time, making sure that a portion of that is invested.
So a lot would say, you know, everything with investments and trading and stocks and so on, they would say it's too risky. What would you say to, you know, those that have a skeptical mind? And what has been the difference maybe in the last 10 years? What has changed?
Yeah, I think there's good and bad in this, because the Forex world right now that you see on Instagram with Lambos being flashed in front of your face and Rolexes being flashed in front of your face, and this idea of quick money and flipping £5,000 to £10,000 in a day is totally unrealistic. And unfortunately, we are in this world where that is shoved all over our socials all the time. And as a trader, as a real trader, it really, really frustrates me, because it gives a false perception of what trading should actually be. And that really frustrates me. And it also is making people pick up extremely bad habits in trading by this fast-paced in and out trade, scalping all the time. It shouldn't be like that. Trading should be boring. Trading shouldn't give you an adrenaline rush or an endorphin. It just shouldn't. It should be boring, and it should be, you know, well, risk is everything. You know, what we do, we are not trading unless we're managing risk. And when you first start to get into it, you know, it might not click for you. But when it clicks, it's one of the most incredible things, because it's basic maths, basic risk to reward. And when you're a trader, you have very, very defined risk. So per trade that I take, I risk 1% of my account balance per trade. So if you don't have a risk plan, you are gambling. And I think this is the, you know, where this bad perception of it comes from. I want to give you an example, because people can't understand this, but when I say basic risk to reward, what does that mean? Well, you risk to gain your reward. And, you know, let's say we have 10 trades, and this might not make sense to some people, but I hope that it starts to show people that with basic risk to reward, it's manageable. So out of 10 trades, let's say you lose 6 of them today, and you had a 1% risk per trade, you'd be 6% down, right? That would be super unlucky if you lost them all in a row, by the way. Let's say you won the next 4 trades, and we're working on a 1 to 3 risk to reward. So we would risk 1% to gain back minimum 3% out of that one trade. You're turning 1% into 3%. Let's say you win the next 4 trades on a 3% gain. That's 3, 6, 9, 12. Take away your 6, and you're still 6% up. But you've lost 6 trades, and you've only won 4. Now, this is the whole point of risk to reward, is you can lose a lot more trades than you need to win. It's about making sure that you stick to that risk to reward. It's very calculated. You know, it's just not what people, I think it is sometimes. So I understand why people have that perception, because of this Instagrammable trading world that we see all the time, which don't necessarily agree with. I'm trying to bring back the old school way of trading, you know, and real trading, and actually, like, we're doing 1 trade a day. You know, people look at me and think I'm mental, that have come from like trading groups that are placing 10 to 20 trades per day, gambling. And they think I'm mental when I say you're placing 1 trade. But that is trading. It's boring.
So in all this, you know, monetary world and your experience behind it, what has been your education? Like, what has been your biggest loss or biggest mistake? And what has been the biggest reward or biggest win or biggest learning?
I'd say the biggest learning curve was when you get the element of greed in trading, which every human experiences. You know, every human, it's natural for us to feel that greed. It's natural for us to protect our brains when we're in a loss. You know, it all comes back down to the caveman days, right? But I'd say, you know, my biggest lesson would be from myself, because trading makes you take a long, hard look at yourself and almost your self-sabotage. So I went through a period of time of my trading where I was constantly self-sabotaging myself by over-risking. And I knew I was doing it. And I think you have to over-risk once or twice in order to realise I won't do that again, and that was a lesson. I think it's always in the back of our mind, right? But what if we just up our lot size? We could have made 1,000 and not 100. You know, and as humans, that's always on the back of our mind. It's about training our minds to be seriously disciplined. Not just disciplined, but seriously regimented on your trading, and having those trading rules, having your trading plan that you stick to and isn't just, you know, crap. My biggest biggest learning, that was probably my, you know, the negative side of it, but it's good now because it's a lesson. And anything I think in learning is a lesson. You're learning it to move on from it and change it and to get better. But just having the level of financial education and being able to go onto a chart, look at an idea, mark up my chart wherever I am in the world and know that I can make money. Okay, it's not realistic that you're going to make money every single day. But, you know, I always tell people to zoom out and look at your week or look at your month, because a losing day does not mean a losing week or a losing month. And I think sometimes it's about making people zoom out on that. And I'm very realistic on, you know, on what you can achieve with this.
Oh, it's so great. Lizzie is amazing. I'm telling you, this is the real deal. Such an inspiration. I'm so happy. Now that you do this, like professionally, full time, but, you know, full time in the sense that that's what you do in your life, and you teach others, you have a huge team behind you. On the family side, with your children, like, what tools do you give them? Like, what routines do you have with them when it comes to investing and trade them? What are the things that you tell them daily or almost daily about money and mindset?
They obviously all know they have a stocks and shares account, so they all know that. And even the twins at the age of 4, they understand that. Alfie at 10 fully knows what I do. So he actually trades on a demo account now, and he has done a lot of Forex education because, again, we spoke about schools and, you know, earlier not giving us those tools, and how they just want us to be good workers, grow up and be, you know, good workers. The Rothschilds said it for themselves, you know. So I just think Alfie already knows what I do and what I'm doing, and he says that he wants to also do it too because he really enjoys it. And I think if somebody can learn at the age of 10, when they're the legal age to start live trading at 18, you've set them up for life. You really have. But they know, you know, they know that they have to work for their money. You know, they aren't given things on a plate, and I'm very, very strong on that. But again, just having, like I spoke about earlier, that routine for them and that disciplined routine to get them instilled with discipline young. And I am also a big believer of kids should still be kids, right? So there's times and places for everything. But I think if you just let your kids fully run riot and have no sort of discipline and no routine, I think you're just making a rod for your own back. But I hope they know, and I hope they see, you know, what I'm doing for them and also for us.
So what disciplines does trading apply to life in your experience?
Really, really good question, because trading disciplines probably every single area of your life. It teaches you so much patience, beyond patience, because you have to be really patient, but beyond disciplined. And that does then spill out onto other areas of your life. It really, really does, because you have to be disciplined in that area. So naturally you become more disciplined. It definitely made me more organized as a person as well, from a very unorganized girl to becoming, you know, a lot more organized. The discipline that I also found is when I was learning, you know, a lot of people say, which I hear all the time, I don't have time. And I cannot hear that. I just can't hear it. I refuse to hear it, because when I first started this with 2 newborn twins, I had to find pockets of time where I could because I knew I wanted to do it and I knew I wanted to succeed in it. And, you know, I'm very raw and honest with people. If they say to me they don't have time, I will literally say, we'll wake up an hour earlier. Or before you turn on Netflix in the evening or Love Island on the evening, do half an hour's education. Like for me, those excuses I cannot physically take in my brain. I can't, and I can't listen to them. And I will just go back and say, if you want this and if you truly want something, you have to give those some sacrifice. You know, something has to give if you want to do it, or you wake up an hour earlier. It's up to you. Choose your heart, you know?
So you are teaching a lot of people these skills of trading and self-discipline and mindset. How does it practically work? Like, what do you do every morning? Or what sort of meetings do you have? And how is the training? And how would that process look like for somebody who would like to get into it and get started?
Of course. So it's about coming in at first and, you know, doing the basics and really getting a basic understanding of what we're talking about. You know, what's a lot size, what's a pip, all these things that you hear. I think that basic level understanding, like I said, really gives somebody confidence and able to move forward. But also, you know, the certain calls I will have with people are trading plans, are fixing a real trading plan, are maybe going over somebody's rules. Maybe, you know, they've struggled with something this week and we need to look on that, log that, talk about it and move forward on it. Sometimes it can be emotional support. You know, sometimes it can be scaling other people's accounts. Lizzie, I want to scale up to 100,000. You know, we talk about that. There's so many. What I love is that every day is different. You know, when you work with people anyway, every day is different. Something different is brought to you every day. So it's never boring. But the relationship that, you know, you grow with people and these calls and events, you know, we run the most incredible events as well. And we have in powerhouses globally, like all up and down the UK as well. Soon to be starting one in Parma, which will be exciting. But that's also great, where people can go in person, meet new communities, meet people. You know, I've known people that don't really see many other people. We have an over 60s community, you know, which is just incredible for the over 60s to be able to do this. So I think it's just about having a process when you come in and being able to have a safe place to learn, having a safe community around you, but also having people around you that are also learning so that you don't feel like it's only you. Because like no question is a stupid question at first. I remember the questions I asked when I first started trading. So I'm very aware of that. And yeah, sometimes it can just be support, really.
Women are often judged about their appearance and, you know, their business ethics, and there's a lot of pressure. Obviously, you are gorgeous, you are smart, you are a mother. Like, how has it been for you to navigate in all of that and the struggles that you've had to been through or the naysayers?
Number one to realize is I do not look like this majority of the time. This is 2% of the time. Majority of the time I am at home with no makeup, with the hair on top of my head, like other mums, covered in food, cooking in the kitchen. You know, that's raw. That's the real, you know, of course, I love to be able to, you know, do my hair and feel nice and dress up. I think every woman loves that, but it's not realistic to look like that all the time. I think if women put pressure on themselves to look like that all the time, it's just totally, I just don't think it's possible. As a mum, people might disagree, but I think it's nice to be comfortable in your own skin. I think, I'll be honest, that sometimes in my entrepreneurial journey, people don't take me as serious or they get intimidated. So it's like, it's actually two completely different things. People either don't take you seriously and I can tell that they're looking at me thinking, this is just this girl, she doesn't have a clue. Or the other side of it where I don't mean to, and I really don't mean to, but I intimidate people. And I don't mean to do that, but I have been told previously, you know, that I am intimidating. But I think that comes from the own people if they feel intimidated. But yeah, I think it's hard, but I think time for you. One of my top tips is never miss your skincare. For me, as a mum, even if I'm not putting makeup on in the morning, just doing my skincare, it takes 2 minutes. And God, it makes us feel good.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that being online and having that, you know, people having a perception of you or thinking like who she is or what she is. And honestly, there's a lot out there. There's not really real. So how do you deal with that? Like, I'm sure because I see your profiles and you're giving so much insight and you have gorgeous pictures. You're like, wow, you know, she's in exotic places or hotels or beautiful pictures. Do you get a lot of like both negative and positive comments? Like, how do you deal with that? Because I guess a lot of people are really scared of that. Like, oh, what would somebody think or what would they say? Like, what has been the impact that you've made and how has people reacted to that?
Yeah, interesting question. I think a lot of people are way too scared of what others think, to the point where they won't even go for their dreams because they care about what other people think. To me, that is beyond crazy, that you wouldn't go and do something because you're worried about what other people think. But I see it every single day. But what would that person think of me? But that person would see me posting that. You just have to have the subtle art of not giving a shit, really, because those hate comments are going to be coming in anyway. But also, I used to entertain the hate comments. And do you know what? They rarely come now because I just don't entertain it. And whereas before, it would anger me and it would get to me. So I would react, I'd bite. But now where I don't bite at all, they've got nothing to feed off of. You know, these people are like parasites. They have nothing to feed off of, they'll stop. So that for me is huge. But if there's anyone out there listening to this that won't go for something because they're scared of what other people think, those people are not paying your bills. They're not paying your bills and they're not following your dream. And if that means that somebody else could stop you following your dream, like, that's so sad, like beyond sad. So I think you really have to give, you know, the subtle art of not giving a shit, basically.
Beautiful. I love it. So talking about self-confidence, what suggestions or what advice could you give to women or mothers who are out there struggling with self-confidence and the expectations that society or the pressure that society gives them? How can they get out of that shell and find their true selves again and find that self-confidence?
I think it's really hard because as mothers, we do go through a period of totally losing that, like totally losing that. And it feels at that time like you're never going to ever get it back. And it feels awful because you don't feel like yourself and you feel different. I think it all takes baby steps after that and just rebuilding yourself back up. Small things, like I said before, doing your skincare, like just the smallest things that are working on you as yourself. Putting that makeup on, doing your hair, making you feel good, because that's great, but also the inner. Because it's all well and good, the outside of us, but you know, if we're not feeling in ourselves inner, then it just doesn't work. So I'd ask yourself, you know, as an investor, what you're investing into yourself as well. So even the investments you're taking, what are you feeding yourself? Are you doing that, you know, your steps per day? Do you feel like crap because you're not exercising at all? Are these things some things that you can change and you know you can actively change? Because those things are hard, right? When you know you can change them, but you're not doing them. So I think it's about putting realistic, you know, whether that's you need to get into the gym, right, to feel good. Okay, we start with a half an hour a week. We don't overload ourselves and say, okay, we're going to go every day, 5 days a week, because it's unrealistic. So I think baby steps in everything that we do, as in getting ourselves back to it as such. And I think, you know, really focusing on something and having a purpose, because yes, our children, you know, are our purposes, but also having a purpose for your own self, whether that is learning a new skill, whether that's learning the piano, whether that's learning a new language, you know, whatever that may be, to focus on something that's really for you. Yeah.
Amazing. So off camera, we were talking a little bit about, different projects and things you want to launch and other things you want to do, because obviously you're not just doing one thing. The way you present it is that, okay, so you had a restaurant and, you had your own business and, you've been growing, learning, moving to different countries, and you've been trading for a long time now. You have a stable, great community, good support network. Of course, as an entrepreneur, you're digging into new things, new exciting things. And we were talking about collaboration. So where does that drive come from? And what is it you would like to get out there?
Honestly, total delusion. Total delusion. I'm going to add on more. No, I think it comes from things that I said to myself when I was young and growing up, and the things that I wanted to do. And all these things that I'm doing now, like my new venture that I can't actually talk anything about at all. But, these new things are things that I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. They aren't just things that pop into my head. They're things that I've wanted to do for a long time, but maybe I haven't had the capital, or it hasn't been the right time in my life, or I haven't had the focus to give. But I feel like where I have so much more freedom now, I have the focus to give in different areas. And I can focus, 2 hours here on that baby, 2 hours there on the other baby. I say babies as my businesses. But, I can focus on different parts of it. So, yeah.
In my head, you don't hear it, right? I'm also delusional, but when you're speaking, I'm like, ding, ding, ding. I'm like, yes, yeah. But obviously that would be insane and weird if I started screaming out like that. But that's what I'm feeling inside. So, okay, great. If we talk a little bit about empowering mothers in this digital era, or empowering women in general, what would be some of the key things that you would say for someone who is in a difficult place or struggling or just can't see above the pile of clothes that needs to go in the washing machine?
Again, it's the small steps. It's the small actionable steps. I think we can so bury our heads. We've all been there where we can't see out. It's so hard to see out. But I fully believe that most people in those situations are self-sabotaging themselves a small amount, because they're not doing the things that they know are going to make them feel good. So in those times, I always say, disconnect with the things that are making you feel bad and connect with the great things in life. The garden, nature, going out on a walk, going to the beach, looking at the sea, looking at all these free natural things that we can do that lift us and really give us those endorphins. So if you're feeling really stuck, go and move your body, go and do things, even though if you don't feel like it, you don't feel like getting out that tracksuit or going outside the door, just do 10 minutes. Small actionable steps, because then I think it will make those steps feel better. But yeah, that is hard. A lot of people, are at that stage, and I think we have all been there. Yeah.
So you having such an amount of success, you can see the numbers are growing, which is amazing. But, you're still human, you're still a mother. How do you cope or deal with your daily challenges, and what would those look like, and how do you overcome them? Because I'm sure people might listen yeah, it sounds too good to be true. So what do you practically do? What are the self-sabotage things that you might tell yourself on a bad day, and how do you talk yourself out of that lie?
No, yeah, it's so true. I do not go to the gym, so I do not exercise, okay? I do walking, I do horse riding, okay, you could class that as exercise, right? But there are certain things even in my life that I still cannot fit in. I would love to go to the gym every single day. That is something that, again, I'm working on. It's I cannot be perfect in everything, but that's definitely something that I know I need to do. And work on. There's certain things that I know I still need to work on to this day and that I haven't got quite figured out. So I think that's just normal. But I think it's being aware of them. Being aware of them is really, really good, because you can start to actionable change them. And again, I give myself excuses. I give myself excuses every day to why I can't go to the gym. But I can go to the gym. I can wake up an hour earlier. I can take my own advice. So there's certain things even in my life that I still haven't quite figured out yet. I think just turning 31 as well, like I've still got I have a lot to still figure out. And I'm sure there'll be more lessons on the way, more things that I need to figure out. And I just think it's normal. I think no one is perfect. I think perfection is just not a thing. I don't think anything can be quite perfect. But then also, what is perfect to you or to different people? And lots of people have different, takes on that. So yeah, I think no one's perfect. I think you can see through that. But also, there's times where I will be stuck in my office, like until the morning, until 3, where I haven't even drunk a glass of water. And that's just it's just the norm of that's what's happening. Or I forget to eat breakfast and then I'm like, oh, it's now 2:30 and I still haven't eaten. Or, that's always going to happen in this busy schedule, in this busy life. But I do think looking after yourself definitely is like number one.
I mean, like you said, nobody's perfect. And that's also part of, being maybe a mother or woman, saying like, it's okay. On one side, and on the other side, which is the entrepreneurial side, you have to be a little delusional and crazy. You have to hype yourself up. You have to be your own number one fan and believe things that nobody else believes. They look at you like, They think, are you crazy? Because you can see that when you look at them, but you don't care. And I think that's a huge strength. I look at you and I see you. I'm like, wow, you are 31. Right? You've already done so much. I mean, I'm 45. I've also...
45.
Shut up. Thank you. Compliments are accepted now that I have accepted to accept compliments.
So hard, isn't it?
Yeah, really hard. Okay, but I mean, I see you, I'm like, wow. Lizzie, honestly, I don't think people praised you enough for what you have accomplished. Like, hearing you speak, I'm proud of you, of what you have done. Like, do you remember to praise yourself and say, like, wow, but like on a deep level? I'm not saying like, yeah, I'm great, and, I give myself flowers. No, I'm talking like, because it can be hard to really look yourself in the mirror sometimes, because we all have things that we struggle with. Like, how do you praise yourself? Because you should be really proud of yourself.
Do you know what? I actually show this through gratitude. That is my way of praising myself, is showing my gratitude, but also watching my goal board just tick off. It's like when I watch myself tick off another goal on that goal board, that is my praise. I don't need to actively like praise myself. And actually, as a leader, and when I show up as a leader for my team, I don't want praising. I don't want praising for what I do. My praise is in what I produce, if that makes sense. The traders that I produce, the mindsets of people that I produce. Like, I think a leader should serve. And I think that's exactly what I'm doing in a way. But the gratitude is where I believe that I show my praise to myself, because it will be super quiet moments. It will be sunrise. It will be sunset. Even like underwater sometimes when I'm snorkeling, manifesting down the beach. It will always be somewhere where I'm in nature. Or it can be even like quiet moments with the kids, sunset at the beach, just slow, quiet moments where I stop and I just think, wow. And I just think, I am so grateful for this. It can be these small moments that just they choke me up, because they really do. And I'm like, I got here. I did do this. I've done it and I'm doing it. I also think there's a big thing about being content in what you're doing as well, and never, we can want for more. That's normal for wanting for more, but just be content in what you've got. Because I think as entrepreneurs, we can push for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and forget about what we've got right now and enjoying that. That's something I had to learn is big time, to be able to enjoy what we've got now. Even though we know it's exciting, what we've next got up our sleeve, it's like, no, let's enjoy what we've built and what we've got now, because you work super hard for that.
There is so much behind the scenes that nobody sees, like nobody but yourself. Like, we inside ourselves are the only ones who see every little thing that we had to go through. Most of it, unfortunately, painful, but that is the only way that we learn and we move forward. So, I mean, on the outside, things can look glamorous, but for someone who has listened to this conversation, I hope for them that it inspires them, because honestly, you are proof that nothing in your story or your background has nothing to do with besides your own free will and moving forward step by step, showing, leading. And honestly, I wish more people would praise and compliment and also say it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay, you know, as a mother to not be perfect, and as an entrepreneur, okay, so we pick it up from here and then we correct whatever we've done.
It's like that messy action.
So
It's very cool.
what are the things that you install in your team and in your family, the principles, like the core principles on this is how we should do it, and also how to stay present?
Interesting. I think the core principles are really don't overpromise and underdeliver. I think that's a huge thing that I teach is just don't say it. If you're not going to do it and follow through with it, it's an empty promise to yourself, and you'll disappoint yourself. Because I'm not disappointed. It's you know, your own who you should be disappointed in. But I think, yeah, people love to talk and love to overpromise things, and they maybe really, really want them, but then they don't back them up. So I think anything in this life, if you say you're going to do it, follow through with it, because it does have a big impact. But also being present for me is totally just not having my phone at all. Like, being present for me is, you know, having that quality time where you can, you know, fully be present. And I mean nothing else, because we find it all very hard to have that an hour where we're even present. But also, if you're struggling to have that time, this sounds really silly, but set a date. So let's just say on Wednesday at 6 p.m., you play with your little boy a game of cards for 1 hour. Okay, and if that's what you can do only that week, that's what you can do only that week, and set yourself as that goal. So you know that, you know, you're not stressing yourself out by I need to do that every day or da-da-da. If you are truly a working mom, you're tired, you know, you get home and your brain is gone because you've been working all day. The last thing you want to do is sit down and play an hour game of cards, right? But it's Wednesday, it's 6 o'clock, and that hour was for your present time, non-negotiable, and it works.
What skills do you believe that mothers should be learning in this digital era that are completely underestimated or that are up and coming?
Absolutely. Well, definitely, you know what I'm going to say, Forex, crypto, stocks and shares, but also, you know, any digital business. So e-commerce is absolutely huge. Inside the academy, we teach that as well. And I think if you have a smartphone, you should be smart and make it work, because we're all about being consumers. You know, most people will go onto their phone now, they'll scroll for a little bit and they'll buy something. They'll end up buying something. I look at my phone the total opposite. I am looking at that as a monetary. I can make money from this. I'm not sitting scrolling for free, because you're a consumer. And that's what most people want, you know, really, really want us to be, I guess. The other skill that I think is absolutely incredible and allows people to really work from home, work around their children, you know, again, have that bit of that soft life as well, is a really new and up and coming skill that is UGC. UGC stands for User Generated Content. And the reason why I love this is because it's for absolutely everyone. Every mom, every woman, if you're a man, whatever, it's for you, because it's moving away from this influencer space of you must have loads of followers, you must be perfect, you must have those perfect images, you know, you must be perfect all the time and have thousands and thousands of followers to even get noticed by a brand. This is where the world is changing, and this is what's quite beautiful, is UGC, the brands want everyday people, normal people to be reviewing their products. They don't want the polished, shiny things anymore. They want everyday people So UGC enables people to really earn very, very good money. I mean, one of the girls in the academy last month, she cleared over 10,000 euros from just UGC alone. I had a girl that came in, and in her first week, this was a few weeks back, she got hit up by, because you're taught, right? You have your boot camps, you're taught how to build your portfolio, your profile, you're taught from scratch exactly what to do with UGC within the boot camps. This girl came in, she was totally new to it, teeth whitening company, and they wanted a 60-second video, $650 for a 60-second video. She could not believe her eyes. She said, Lizzie, is this real? And I said, yes, it's real. The reason why this is so good is, we talked about earlier about how if you're worried about what people think of you, well, UGC is beautiful because the brand posts the content, you do not. So you don't have to spam your social media with loads of different content and videos. Like, you literally send it to the brand, they pay you, and it's very different to affiliate marketing. Some people like to get affiliate marketing and UGC a bit mixed up. It's totally different, and you can make a full-time wage off of UGC alone. The great thing is that you can work with brands that you already like, that you already use in your household, that your kids already use. You might have a favorite toothpaste, a favorite vitamin. One of my girls, Rosie, she now has all the vitamins for her child, but she gets them free and delivered because she just shares it and she gets the free products. I'm talking full-size Elemis products. I'm talking, she got a speaker sent to her the other day worth 250 quid. She didn't even have to do a video. She did a written review. So it's all about looking and experiencing what opportunities there are out there. I'm not here to put down any jobs or, anyone working for someone else. I think the world needs to go round. All I want to do is open opportunity for people in their minds. So yeah, UGC, another great skill.
Yeah, I mean, this digital era, it's crazy. It's absolutely incredible what you can accomplish and do. And when I started Momtivations was also from an idea that, I could see that the numbers were going higher and higher on antidepressants on a worldwide basis. If you look at the different studies, more single mothers than ever, more, co-parenting. I mean, a lot of, deconnection, like people not connected to themselves. We are in this swipe era, but I mean, if you can actually do and give useful content and make money off of it, that's how I started Momtivations, to spread the word, also have other mothers share their stories or their expertise, their knowledge, to kind of create that space and community. I started without having any expectations of, how many views I was going to have. And I just made a plan. And one of my big tools with ChatGPT, like AI, not being fully guided by it. You have to be critical and you have to prompt it right. And you have to be, make sure you read everything. Make sure that that's what you want to do and what you stand for, like ethically, morally. The other day, and I've been doing this not for a long time, so I don't have that many videos, but like I'm moving on the social media places I'm doing strategically every day on all platforms, the same content, and you never know who is out there listening. And who reached out is TEDx Talks. So they were curious to know more about Momtivations, what it stands for, the story. I'm also actually writing a book about helping mothers in this digital era, how to survive and thrive. I think the monetary aspect, to learn the skill about money, is extremely important and interesting, because that is going to give you so much calm and help to do the other fun stuff that you want to do with your family. So what freedoms and liberties has that given you in your journey?
It's a lovely question, because that survival mode that we spoke about and keeping your head above water, I truly do not feel that survival mode anymore. But that only really, I'd say, truly stopped. Like, I think of the moment where I felt peace. And I'll have to be honest, it came from having enough money to not have to feel like I had to be on that survival mode. And yes, obviously the other things came with it, but it was the first time I was like, I don't have to worry. That was truly incredible, because the sense of calm, like you say, that it gave me I'd never felt that in my whole entire life. And in turn, what that did is it then positively impacted, like you say, the rest of my life, but enabled me to then go and do my passion projects and the things that I really want to do and get back into my horse riding again and the things that make us feel good, because we didn't just have to go round on the hamster wheel. So
They have that saying, show me your 5 friends or 5 most closest people to you and I'll show you who you are. Or how has that impacted you? Like, how has your choice of what people that you surround yourself with impacted you?
I will be very honest. I can count my true friends on one hand. I have acquaintances, that I've met throughout the years. I have people that I network with. I have my gorgeous community, and a lot of them I call my friends. But truly, I can say that people that are there for me is under 3 people. So it can feel pretty lonely at times. And I think moving to a different country as well and having babies in, again, a country where you don't know anyone, you can't just pop round to your mum's house or, they can't pop round. And I see so many women, and I think it's truly beautiful, and I will do this for my daughter, but I truly see, their mums coming round when they're about to give birth and being there. And that used to really sadden me, and that used to really upset me, because I knew that I would never have that. I'd never have that support. It was me and my partner, and we just had to deal with it. I didn't have a clue, and like, as mums, there's no manual. There's definitely no manual for twins. The first 2 years of having twins was like a total blur in my mind, and it still is, because I just survived. So yeah, I think that all comes down to it.
Basically.
So with what you said right now, again, I need to say, because this is a big passion of mine, do you remember to celebrate yourself? Like, and how does that look like? Because I envision myself that I would be, crying tears of joy from like applauding myself and seeing how I've impacted others with love, care, and presence. So how do you do that for you?
Just having time for me. I think just having time for me, that just really, and just again, gratitude. Gratitude always makes me feel great. And it really does make me celebrate. But also, hearing my grandma and granddad, I went back to the UK last week, and just hearing them so excited about what I do and how they can see changes. I can see they can see the changes because they know I'm doing well now, and it's just a whole different way. But yeah, I think I do praise myself sometimes.
Just humbly.
But it is beautiful to see someone who has accomplished so much being so humble and grateful and honest and true and real. And that is something really that Momtivations stands for and wants to represent for the future. So people, anybody out there, if you thought that this story from Lizzie Perrins is incredible, which I do, I will put the links and follows and subscribes down in the caption. So yeah, if you want more conversations like this, please do follow and subscribe. And Lizzie, on another note, is there anything else that you would like to add or say when it comes to, mothers out there struggling?
I just think every mother should just go for it. Just go for it. Do not be scared of what other people think. I think go out and do what's good for you. But I also want to say, I think what you're doing here is incredible. I think the whole concept is just unreal. And I want to thank you for having me today. You're an angel.
My pleasure, people. We're getting too emotional here. It's beautiful, isn't it?